Lesson 31, Section 2. This presentation, we will be covering aorist participles. The aorist participle is formed as follows. Take the aorist stem, which is usually the present stem plus sigma. So for instance, with a verb like pao all, we drop our personal ending omega, we get our present stem, and then we add the sigma. And for the second part, we add the appropriate form, or the ending, of pas minus the pi. So in the nominative masculine singular, it's going to be as, just like pas is the nominative masculine singular of that adjective. And we would translate this as having stopped in the singular masculine nominative. And in the feminine and neuter, we're going to see very similar things. Pausasa, here the asa is just that ending on pas in the singular feminine nominative, and then pausan, the singular neuter nominative. And of course, these are these gendered forms are declined according to case and numbers. So we have, again, 5 times 2 times 3, more or less, 30 or so forms. Let's take a look at those. So these are the forms for pas in the masculine, the feminine, and the neuter. As I just indicated, we're going to drop the pi from all of these. That leaves us with all of these endings, and we're going to add the aorist stem of whichever verb we're dealing with. So if it's the verb pao all, I stop, we're going to take the present stem, pao, add the sigma, and get paus, and just add all those in there. And that is effectively all we have to do. Pausas, pausasa, pausan, having stopped. Now the having stopped may confuse you a little bit. This is the aorist participle, as we've said, not the perfect participle. For the perfect participle too, though, we gave the translation having stopped. Now the aorist participle is much more common than the perfect participle. In English, we don't actually distinguish between the two. Greek does, though it tends to use the aorist participle even where we might expect the perfect participle. But this translation, having stopped, will do for the most part for the aorist participle as well as for the perfect participle. Now, the aorist participle usually indicates the action it describes takes place before the action of the main verb. This is not its only use, but most often it shows a sequence of events. For instance, akousas tu retaras eulegen emantanon. Now the participial phrase is these first 3 words, akousas tu retaras. And akousas is the aorist participle, nominative masculine singular, of the verb akua, I hear, I listen to. So here it's having listened to retaras, the public speaker. This is the participial phrase. This genitive right here is really dependent on the participle. Then we have the second part, eulegen emantanon. And emantanon is the imperfect, either first person singular or third person plural, it's ambiguous, of mantana, I learn, I understand, I hear. And if you're learning something, learning to do something, what you're learning to do goes into the infinitive form. So a good translation of this, well, a literal translation of this might run something like this. Having listened to the orator, or the public speaker, I learned to speak well. And we know it couldn't actually be they learned to speak well. If it were, we would not have the singular masculine nominative form for the participle. That participle would have to agree with the subject. In the nominative, it would have to be plural. It would be akousantes. So that helps us resolve the ambiguity inherent in the verb there. But as you can probably tell, this isn't a very good translation. Having listened to the orator, I learned to speak well. Doesn't sound very good in English, partly because we don't use participles as frequently as they did in Greek. So what's another option? Well, If the listening took place before the learning, we could translate it as follows. I listened to the orator and learned to speak well. So we have a sequence of events. And in English, a better way really of translating this is by using two normal verbs, two main verbs, two finite verbs, and not a participle plus a verb. This is going to be really, really helpful as we translate and try to understand what participles are doing in Greek. For the forms of aorist participles, you can take a look at page 39 in the grammar. And for more on what these aorist participles mean and how they're used, take a look at these pages. Thank you very much.